I'm Gareth Owen, and this is Dragonheart.
Welcome to Dragonheart. Sorry, it's been a bit of a time for myself to have been on it. I've been caught up with loads of crazy different things, but we've got loads of things to talk about today. But firstly, Neil, how are you, mate?
Yeah, all right. Feeling a bit better than I did yesterday, but yeah, and at the end, I think I'm glad I missed the game yesterday after watching it. So, in the cold, and your conversations at half time.
Well, Mark, we were there, weren't we? We'll be talking about that Burton game.
Hmm.
We'll also be talking about the Oval game. We'll be talking about the Cop as well, and what's happened there. And we've got a secret segment to talk about, a little bit of an announcement, something to do with last season that we all three of us partaked in. So let's not waste any time.
Sounds like an
This
orgy
is
now.
Dragonheart.
Honestly. These people.
Oh, welcome to the official YouTube of Wrexham AFC. This is Dragonheart.
I'm Steve Dale, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, Wrexham victorious last Sunday against a very solid Yeovil side. I'd say a very good side for their league. We end up comfortably winning 3-0. Neil, it on paper, I thought the game was a lot tougher than it looked. And to be fair to Yeovil, they give us a good game, didn't they?
They did give us a good game. They didn't create a lot in front of goal, should I say? And I thought Wrexham, for the majority of the game, looked very comfortable. And for me, they didn't really get out of second or third gear. They did when they upped the game to score the goals, but yeah, comfortable win in the end, and what could have been a very tricky fixture and a tricky game with Yeovil doing so well in their league this season.
Yeah, of course, and I think that's a key point, Neil. Regardless, and Phil Parkinson agreed as well. Regardless of what league you play in, if you're playing a side that's in the top three in any league, they're going to be high in confidence, Mark, and they're going to have a lot of quality and belief in themselves. And these sort of games can really be banana skins, can't they?
Oh, yeah. It's exactly right, isn't it? They're playing well. They're used to winning. And also, let's be honest, they're used to being on the front foot and being on top of games. So, that leads you to expect them to cause us problems. I thought they were a little passive at first, which, to be fair, they are 2 divisions lower than us. But I wondered if they were a little wary about the fact that we could harm them and the fact we got an early-ish goal, which set them back a little bit. Because when they got a bit higher up the pitch, and started to be a little bit more aggressive during the second half, you could see glimpses of, a side that could trouble us. But yeah, as Neil said, we were in complete control. The second half, we really sort of coasted it again. In the commentary, Neil was talking about game management. That's exactly what it was, wasn't it? We did very well. The only sort of disappointment really was the injury to Hayden.
Yeah. I was just about to talk about that. I was just about to mention that. Neil, it was very, very frustrating for everyone in the stadium, wasn't it, to see Aaron Hayden come off, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he's not been in the team again for a long period of time, and the same thing happened to him last season in the FA Cup, where he was injured, and it's a shame because he's such a good player and a solid player for Wrexham, and we've got so many players out injured at the moment from the defensive line that we had to reshuffle yet again just to put a defence on a centre three on the pitch. So it's going to be tough coming a few games without Hayden again. But we coped very well. I don't think Yeovil put us under much pressure. The only pressure that came on Sunday was the free kick where Howard made a fantastic save up in the right-hand corner and tipped it around the bar from a free kick. And apart from that, I didn't think Yeovil troubled us, but Hayden again will be a very big loss. We've got so many defenders out at the moment.
Yeah, we have. And Mark, would you say that it's an injury crisis, or is it borderline an injury crisis? Because we have got a lot of centre halves out, haven't we, at this moment in time?
I would say
and
that
goalkeeper.
I would say that were not for the fact that we can still put out a team which can go toe-to-toe with pretty much a full-strength Burton side from the division above and give them a good go. You know, we got such fabulous squad depth. I mean, Jay, you were saying before the Burton game, not so long ago, we'd be thrilled if that second 11 was our first 11. And you're 100% correct when it comes down to actually, you know, sort of like dealing with an injury crisis. Thankfully, we've got squad depth. I mean, a couple more, and even our deep squad might be trouble to touch. But it's fantastic the way that we're able to adapt and cope with the loss of key players. It really is. I mean, the depth of our squad. Looking at, you said then about having a defence out. I mean, you could have a Concourt in goal, Hayden, O'Connell, Tunnicliffe, 3 centre backs, Barnett at right back. All these players are out. Stick Ford on the left. Here you go. Yeah. There's a whole defensive unit, 6 players out who, you know, feasibly could be your first choice defence, couldn't they? To be fair.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, at their best, that could be our first choice defence later on in the season. Who knows? And that just, you know, the squad depth we have, Neil, it's incredible, isn't it? And you know, you've got to give praise to the owners for really putting their hands in their pockets for that. Really,
definitely so. I mean, Paul Cleworth, he's been a fantastic player, you know, and he's sat on the bench for months now. But you know, he comes in when needed, and he will come in any time to stiffen up our defence. He's a great player. He played really well last night. A solid player, and helped us out last season when we had a few defensive issues with injury again. So yeah, I mean, even, you know, the young lad Davis came in. You know, we have got players, as Mark said, you know, who played against Burton, against virtually a full strength Burton, who did very, very well last night. We got Boyle there as well. So we are so lucky as a team now when we've got such good owners who brought all these players in and give us, you know, most teams would falter with so many injuries in the defence, but we seem to have players who can come through and pick up a role. Connor has been shifted all around defence, you know, and fair play to him. He's done a fantastic job. So yeah, but it is worrying that we've got so many defenders out at this moment in time.
It is a worry. But we do have players who can play in several roles, and the fact that, you know, George Evans and Tom O'Connor aren't natural centre halves, Mark, they're certainly doing more of a job at this moment in time, aren't they?
That Notts County game, I remember working out when that was when we first dropped them both back into the back three at the same time, and I remember working out that both of them throughout their entire careers had each played about 12% of the games they'd played at centre-back. So they are, you know, they're clearly both very accomplished, but they are both stand-in centre-backs, aren't they, really? But they are both so good at that job.
Yeah.
I mean, the only issue I've got with Tom O'Connor at the moment is that after the Movember, he looks incredibly like Mike Wozniak, the comedian, who is great, but he looks too much like him. It's slightly disturbing. But yeah, I mean, I love O'Connor. I've always thought since he first came to us that he looks a higher level player. He's so comfortable and smooth on the ball, and then Evans. I mean, goodness me. I mean, I just feel we need to think about him for a bit. He hadn't played that much football for the 2 seasons before he came to us, and at first, I felt you could see really good attributes, but it wasn't quite adding up to 90-minute performances. And looking at him now and the level he's at now, I think it's reasonable to say that's because he had no match fitness whatsoever. Because once he's got a few games under his belt, that guy is a Rolls Royce, isn't he? I mean, he's just class. What a player George Evans is.
Yeah, George Evans, Neil, it's been a really high-class signing. Yes, as Mark said, it's taken time to really get used to the swing of things. In League Two, he has been playing at a higher level, but his class is shining through, and it's the type of player you want to be getting into League One with, isn't it?
I totally agree with you, but I totally agree with what Mark said. I mean, at first I thought he was very rusty. I was wondering at times, you know, why is he on the pitch at this moment in time? But obviously he needed game time, and yeah, he puts in a good shift now, and to have to go back into the centre three in defence, and O'Connor. I think O'Connor maybe has found his best position there. For me, he's played his best as a defender. He's done superbly as a defender. But Evans, he's grown on me. He gets better and better each game you see him play, and an accomplished defender as well.
I mean, I think Andy Parkinson, where he's been a bit unlucky because the games he's commentated on with Evans, he commentated in a lot of the early Evans games where, like I say, you can see he was a good player, but he was lacking match sharpness and he wasn't quite putting it all together. And so I noted his shock because I knew he had misgivings about Evans, and I kept saying, "Mate, he's okay, don't worry." His shock at the Morecambe game, when having seen a sort of series of Evans at half pace games, saw Evans at full pace, he was really struck by, okay, this guy's good, this guy's really good, but his awareness of what's going on, his picture in his head of what's happening, allows him to play first-time passes that other players would have to stop on the ball and have a think about, by which point, of course, the opportunity's gone. And we saw, that Morecambe game is the best illustration of it, but with the points in that game where he got a bit higher up the pitch and was linking with attacking players with good movement, like Lee. Oh, it was scary. I love the idea of Fletcher being fit and playing off Mullin because they're both intelligent players who move around well. Have good movement, should I say. And then you put McLean and Ford into the mix, and you put Lee and Evans into that mix. I'd just love to see us, with all those players, doing that sort of late match thing they do when Fletcher comes on, playing around him and enjoying interacting with him, and just absolutely ripping a team to shreds. I'm just waiting for that moment when they're all available and we can have a right laugh.
Oh, I think when we have full strength, it's going to be scary and it's going to be really hard to pick that first 11. You mentioned all those players, you even mentioned Mendy and people like that. We've got such incredible squad depth. We say this all the time, but slightly changing the subject now. The prize prior to the game was if we got through Yeovil, we finally got a real derby in Shrewsbury Town, to the fact where I do seem to, I have heard people say that they see the Shrewsbury game bigger than they see the Chester game. Neil, for your neck of the woods, it's going to be a big game, isn't it, for the people of Whitchurch?
No man's land between the two clubs.
It is, but as I said before, I think there's far more Wrexham fans in Whitchurch than there are Shrewsbury fans. But it's funny you said that. I mean, the Shrewsbury fans I know have started coming in the shop wearing their Shrewsbury colours now. Which you would never normally see them be wearing.
Getting their small victories in before the game happens and reality kicks in for them.
Yeah, I think they're scared. I think they really are scared of Wrexham coming to them and whipping their backsides, to be honest. But it'll be a cup game. It's a cup game. Anything can happen. But I mean, I'm sure Shrewsbury will rise to the occasion, as will Wrexham do. I mean, no matter what, it'll be a great game, as you say, Chay. It is a good local derby. We haven't played them for a number of years, and the last time I went and watched them, we lost at their ground. The season we got relegated, and we owe them one, and we'd like to get through to the fourth round of the FA Cup by giving them a hiding.
Mark, just explain to the international viewers how big of a game this is, because we always talk about Chester first, don't we? That is the big one on everyone's minds. But really, when you come to think about it, Shrewsbury is a very close second, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I would put it in that order. To me, Chester is a real huge game. It's only 12 miles apart. There's all sorts of factors that I think really make that massive for us. And my thinking personally would be that if you see Shrewsbury as a bigger derby, I would assume it's because, like Neil, you might come from Shropshire, where Shrewsbury are more in your consciousness. But for me, I think Chester's the derby, but Shrewsbury's definitely the next one up for me, and by some distance. There is, there is a genuine rivalry there. Shrewsbury loved it when, like you said, they walloped us near the end of our last season in the Football League, and it was a real pounding, and it hurt. It hurt a hell of a lot. And in the late 70s, when I started watching football, we had a weird thing where we sort of paralleled each other. So Wrexham won the 3rd division, won the Welsh Cup, went up into the 2nd division, the Championship now. Shrewsbury did exactly the same thing the next season. And that next season, we played them in the Welsh Cup final. And it was just, it just felt like, okay, they're doing what we're doing now. We're consolidating in the Championship. It's not that exciting. We've lost a few good players, but Shrewsbury had this really exciting side that was stepping up and going for it. And they achieved what we achieved the year before. And so, yeah, it's a proper rivalry. There's lots of players who played for both over the years as well. I don't think it's quite as spiky as Chester, but it's a proper full-on historic derby goes back quite a while. And yeah, I mean, what's Shrewsbury? 50 minutes, an hour from Wrexham at tops.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's close. And although I'd say Tranmere is a little closer, to me, Shrewsbury has a bit more of a sort of historic depth to it and a bit more depth of feeling to it.
Well, I'd argue that Shrewsbury are a more similar-sized club to us than what Chester are. So, from a sporting point, I'd say it's a bigger game because obviously they're League One and what have you. And we haven't played them in a long time. I've always really had a strong dislike. Obviously, don't like Chester, but I had a really strong dislike for Shrewsbury because as a kid, growing up, apart from the 02-03 game where we beat them away, but I was too young for that. I was too young to go to that. The home game on my first season, I seen Wrexham v Shrewsbury was a draw. Jamie Tully scored for Shrewsbury, I remember. Am I right with that, Mark?
I don't know, because it wasn't my first game against Shrewsbury.
No, the 02-03 season when we played Shrewsbury.
Oh, yeah, that was a 3-3 draw, wasn't it?
3-3 draw, yeah.
Tracking goal, curling it in, from the outside the box. And they were poor that year. And that's one of the things, I suppose, it's a terrible cliche, but the form goes out the window when it's a derby, all that nonsense. And so we got promoted that year and were excellent. And in the run-in, we were spectacular. And yet Shrewsbury, who were poor, came to the racecourse, drew 3-3. I have a gut feeling that they may have led 3 times, or we had to equalise 3 times as well. So, yeah, a derby game can be unpredictable. I'm just curious about this one. I mean, Shrewsbury are been odd this season. I know Neil will know better than I do, but I know they're very concerned about their lack of goals. They've only scored 12 goals in the league this season, and yet they are 12th in the table.
Their fans are really concerned about the number of goals and how boring they are and how drab it is to go and watch them. That's all I hear. When they beat Notts County in the cup to get through to play us, they were gifted 3 goals, which it never would have scored normally, is what I'm being told. So,
please,
yeah. Their fans are not happy. They're really not happy.
That could suit a derby game. A team that are really tight at the back. They get an early goal against us. We could struggle.
I mean, I've got to say that Notts County game, Neil, you are so right.
Yeah.
Anyone who has not seen those goals must watch the goals. It's astonishing what Notts County did. Don't get me wrong. Well done, Shrewsbury. You've won at Notts County 3-1. That is a proper 3-2, is it? That's a proper result because we know how good Notts County are. But their defending for the 3 goals was, I mean, beyond hilarious. The 3rd goal, there are so many. Sorry, I was trying to talk about it without laughing. There are so many Notts County players who get a touch before the Shrewsbury player taps it in. It looks like Notts County are attacking that goal. It's hilarious. Like the 4 touches before the goal are all defenders messing it up. It's hysterical. You've got to watch it. But I mean, the thing is, they are letting in goals as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a tough draw.
Yeah, they lost 4-0 at Blackpool, didn't they, last week?
If you look at the table, I'd say that they're 12th. I think they've got a goal difference of -15.
Yeah,
when they're that high up the table. I mean, how peculiar is that? So they've clearly got issues, and clearly they can get good results, but there's something strange going on there. And I take your point, Chay, that any side that doesn't let goals in is going to be good in a tight one-off situation. I mean, that
No, they let goals in. They do let goals.
Yeah, but so do we. So do we.
Well, like I said, I take Chay's point about teams being able to be tight in one-off games. The Wrexham 97 team that got to the Cup quarterfinals in some ways was more solid than spectacular, although it did have match-winning players. But yeah, I'm not sure what Shrewsbury are. They clearly, on occasions, concede and concede spectacularly. So I don't know what they are, and I don't know. I quite like that.
It's the crazy thing about derby games in general. We could go there and lose 3-0. We could go there and win 3-0. It's all a flip of the coin. And, let's give them respect here. Yes, we are a good side, but this is a seasoned League One side. And this is a real test to see how good we actually are and how ready this team is for League One. Because, we've got to be getting results against Shrewsbury if we're going to get promoted this season.
Predominantly, their fans see them as a very, very poor team this season. They had a very good start to the season, then it's just all pieces of the way. They can't play football, boring to watch, can't create goals, is what they're telling me. And they fear they're going to get relegated this season. They think what they're telling me.
I don't think they will.
They're going to pass us on the way. We go up, they go down.
I don't think
they will. And that is their fear this season.
Long may that continue. That's what I got to say. Good luck to them.
But it is such a huge game. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about that in more depth closer to the time. But after this, we're going to talk about another trophy game. We're going to talk about that Burton Albion game.
I'm Luke Young, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, unfortunately, we crashed out of the Bristol Motors Trophy, whatever it's called.
There's a street in there. Bristol Street Motors Trophy.
Bristol Street Motors Trophy. I do apologise. I'm glad I don't have to say that again for the rest of the season. But it was a heavily rotated squad, Neil, against a pretty much first Burton side. So I think in the grand scheme of things, we played all right.
Yeah, they played very well. Apart from the first 4 minutes where they let in those 2 goals. Yeah, I think they caught us on the hop with that, especially with the first goal. Just totally off guard, and that shook us. But then we got one back quite quickly. And watching the game in between other things, I thought Wrexham dominated for the rest of the first half. They looked a lot better. We had a lot more chances. We created a lot more chances, and we looked good. Because it was basically our second 11 with 1 or 2 sprinkled in. I thought Wrexham played really, really well. And if anything, I'd have been happy with them getting a draw. But, it wasn't to be. As you say, it's a Bristol Street Motors Cup, so I'd rather be in the FA Cup, I think.
I think that's so say all of us.
Well, Mark, it was the most thrilling 5 minutes I've ever commentated on. 3 goals, and they were all really good goals. It was quite bizarre to commentate on, wasn't it? Really, to wrap your head around it.
It was a proper cup tie, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Everybody just toe to toe hammering it. And to be fair, I'd say that style of play continued throughout the first half and at the end of the second half as well. It really was wide open. I thought it was really interesting how Burton stretched the pitch, and essentially with the ball at a 4-2-4 and made the pitch long and wide and used that space really cleverly. But we adapted, stopped getting up to press them because that was just leaving space. And yeah, Neil hit the nail on the head. We did very well in the first half. We were really unlucky to be behind. And quite apart from the fact that it was a fight back from letting in 2 early goals, which could completely knock the stuffing out of you, we also had the misfortune of not being given an absolute
Stonewall
penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, a Stonewall, absolutely. I mean, McFadden is too good, beats his man. He gets kicked in the shin just below his knee. I mean, what do you want, ref? Do you want him to get a gun out? Hell's bells. It's a penalty.
Yeah, it was a clear penalty, wasn't it, Neil?
Yeah, and as you saw it more and more on the replays, I mean, the ref only gets that one chance to see it, unfortunately, but he had a good view of it. We got to see the replays, and the more and more you see it, it's definitely 100% penalty. And why the ref didn't give a penalty is beyond me. And we've had some refs at the racecourse already, though. The Stoke Kairos this season already, so he's another one to add to the list, I think.
It was quite funny commentating on it, because me and Mark just went, "Oh yeah, it was a penalty straight away, wasn't it?" It was no thought or hesitation. "Oh, that's a clear penalty." We looked at the replay and it was, "Oh yeah, that was a clear penalty."
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it, Mark? Stonewall.
Yeah, 100%. I've said before, I'm sort of pre-programmed to not jump to conclusions and say it's a penalty in case it turns out it isn't. And when I look at it again, I change my mind. But you're dead right, Jake. But both of us that immediately said penalty. There was no point in stopping and thinking about it. And that's sort of what that does irk me a bit. Neil's exactly right. He's only got one chance to see it. I said that in the commentary as well. I totally agree. But it did look like a penalty. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you have to really try and think, "Ooh, what are the reasons to not give a penalty for that one?" It was so clear. And when we're talking about people only getting one chance to see the ball, I suppose that's how James Jones might feel when he was going to clear the ball for their second goal, but the referee got in the way and blocked his view. So it bounced off him and they scored. So, come on, ref.
He should have blowed up then and a drop ball, and he definitely should have done,
That was a bit of a stinker, that wasn't it? Really, I don't like jumping over all over the referees, because for the future generations of referees, I think referees and decisions get over scrutinized, and I think we're gonna have less referees going into the game, and it's gonna be a lower quality. And I think if we jump on referees' decisions all the time, it's not good. However, you cannot be getting in the way of play. That's a big no, isn't it, really, Mark?
And equally, I did feel when Will Boyle took a really full-blooded shot square in the face and went down like a sack of spuds. I appreciate there wasn't a lot of time to react, but I thought the ref should have blown his whistle a lot quicker than he did. He allowed Burton to get another shot in, and Jordan Davis gets a good block on it. If that had gone in, I think there'd be a hell to pay. Just play it down with a clear head injury. It could be serious, and you've carried on to see what the attack did. No, I'm afraid you got a duty of care to the players. What I wonder is, all this fuss about AI. Do we need referees? Can't we create some weird all-knowing entity that will plug its USB-C cable, its AI, into VAR and just make everything work? Because I'm sure that's what the papers would tell us would happen.
Oh yeah, that sort of scaremongering. Don't say that, Max. You're going to be on a TalkSport article in the next few days. Wrexham commentator has inside info on AI technology.
Yeah. Wrexham Loon calls for cull of referees. Now there's an episode title, if I dare.
But let's talk about officiating for a little bit. I've got to say, it's the toughest job in the pitch. You've got a lot of responsibility. You've got a lot to think about. But how do we fix it at all levels, Mark?
Geesh. AI? No, sorry. I think their standard overall has been better this season. I think we should acknowledge it. There have been mistakes. There have been some frustrating mistakes. There have been some very costly mistakes. But I would still say the officiating has been better overall. There have been plenty of games where we've liked the officials. Much as I want to be biased, they get one chance to see it. It is true. It's the sort of attitude decisions, really, like that head injury one that bother me. But like you say, don't scare people off refereeing.
Yeah.
Which I like to do.
It's a thankless job, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd never do it again. That's all I got to say on the matter. But I think that's it for Burton, really. So after this, we're going to talk about our spooky announcement. I don't know why I call it spooky, but we'll talk about our announcement.
Well, it is Halloween, isn't it, Chay?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it was out.
Yeah. Close enough.
It's close enough. Okay.
I'm Mia Roberts, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, we have an announcement regarding. Well, it's not really an announcement, is it? It's just.
It's a revelation.
Yeah, it's a revelation.
horror,
Yeah, it's that. So last season, some of you may and may not have noticed when we were doing the away games that the crowd noises were completely silent, wasn't it, Mark? Do you want to explain why this was?
Oh God, yes. Well, Wrexham player, that platform works best with an ISDN line. Now, an ISDN line is a form of communication, either voice or data, which has been superseded. So it's it's no longer really the go-to system to use, and very few places have ISDN. But the Football League's platform was created on the network of ISDN lines. ISDN lines were installed in all the Football League grounds to allow for that. And so Wrexham player works on that. Now, to be fair, I mean, you may well have noticed that unless there's some glitch, the sound quality is terrific off an ISDN line. And I can see why they use it. But they're a little fragile, and they're all going to be switched off in 2025. So it's pretty obsolete. And that means, of course, National League clubs don't have them. So as a consequence of that, because we were using ISDN and committed to it, but we had a lot of away games that didn't have that equipment, we had to do pretty much all the away games from the racecourse. And it presented its own peculiar difficulties, I think it's fair to say. We weren't allowed to talk about that because, you know, obviously there could be issues if we talked about us doing it from the racecourse, like people coming to the racecourse to see if they can get in somehow to watch the game. And we used a private stream, so it wasn't a public stream. And yeah, basically, we had to do the away games from the racecourse, and that was interesting. I just can't lie. So I never actually said we were at... You listen back to every single game, I'm sure everyone will. I never actually said we were at somewhere if we weren't. But yeah, it did cause issues in terms of crowd noise. And also, I think, guys... It did cause certain, shall we say, health and safety challenges for us when we were going in there. Would you care to elaborate?
I wasn't sure whether we were allowed to talk about that, but
yeah, why not? We can talk about it now.
So it was that wasn't last season; it was the season before, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so that was our first season of the takeover, and it was a really, really crazy windy game.
Oh, can I just say before you go on, Chay, I actually was just talking about how dark it was.
It was. Yeah,
I was building up to that one later, but go on. Now you're saying, yeah.
We might have to jump into this one because this is going to be in my memory for the rest of my life, and I hope Mark still has the audio somewhere for it because I'd love that to be released because it was just so funny. For one, it was an awful game of football. We played Torquay. It was the Torquay game we lost 2 seasons ago. And we didn't look too great, in all fairness. But I'd say, was it midway through the first half or the second half? Out of nowhere, we just heard this crazy rumbling and a huge bang. And on the stream, we just went completely silent. And then out of nowhere, I forgot what Mark said, but it was really funny.
No, it was just we all went silent, didn't we? Because like, what the heck was going on there? And then after a moment of silence, I thought I've got to carry on. And I just, like nothing had happened, said, Hall Johnson with the throw-in. I just tried to carry on.
Neil, how terrifying was that moment?
It was crazy because I can't remember whether it was actually dark or not as well, but it was one really windy day.
Yeah.
And things were flying around the ground already, you know, bits of paper and everything. And then, as you say, we heard it. We were commentating, and we heard this awful rumbling, and then metal on metal grinding.
Yeah.
And we didn't discover till after the game what had actually happened, did we? When we were actually leaving the ground.
How close we'd come to death.
Yeah, because it flapped over the back of the stand, thankfully, and didn't fly forward. Because it would have fly forward. It was a Wrexham Lager. It was the Wrexham Lager stand sign, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and if it would have flew under the stand, we wouldn't have had time to react. It would have just hit us.
Yeah.
And that would have been a crazy stream then, wouldn't it?
Well, as we got decapitated, I would say pretty crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
The headless commentators of Wrexham. What a Halloween tale. You said it was spooky, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it was spooky, but I've got to say that was a crazy moment. But just to be able to do that for 2 seasons, Mark and Neil, and it's Shane Bill isn't on the stream as well, was a real privilege and probably one of the most unique ways to watch football ever, wasn't it? We were sitting at our home ground on our own, watching Wrexham away on a TV. It was brilliant, wasn't it, Neil? It was something that I'll take to the grave of me.
It was nuts. You know, we were there in an empty stadium, as you say, all weathers, all times of day, afternoon matches, evening matches, in the dark, complete darkness a lot of the time because there was never any lights left on for us, apart from the winter time when they brought those new heaters in, which went on the pitch, which gave us a little bit of light to see where we were going. No warmth because it was absolutely freezing cold there. So yeah, we were quite dedicated, weren't we, guys? You know, going all weathers.
Tuesday nights, whenever we were called to do commentary, it was either myself, Chay, and Mark, and also Bill. A lot of the time, there were 4 of us, and it was a great experience. But it was like little kids knowing a secret which nobody knew. You know, and we couldn't really tell anybody. You know, Mark walking into it would have looked dodgy, wouldn't it? Us 4 walking into the stadium, Mark carrying a TV every week, and it was so cool. And we had some great moments there commentating, but I remember making mistakes sometimes. Like, I remember saying, that Bromley's ground looks unique, and you went, yes, it's great as we are sitting in it right now, or something like that. And I was just like, oh. Yeah, it's great to be here.
It's just that was weird. I think we got away with that pretty well. I always was amazed that very few people actually seemed to comment on the fact there was no crowd noise. And I felt terrible about that because, like I said, we were told, and I totally appreciate the reasons why. I think it was a correct decision. We shouldn't be talking about how we are not there. I mean, an awful lot of the games you see from all the top European leagues were commentated on by people who are in a big hangar in Watford. They're not there. So we weren't in that sense. Oh yeah. It was custom built for them, yeah. You know, but in that sense, it was normal. And you don't hear people on Sky Sports saying, "Well, here we are in a shed. Look at that. Look how nice Bayern Munich's ground looks." You know, they don't say that. So I think it was quite right. But yeah, there were certain occasions when I think we did well to bluff through it. The crowd noise was non-existent. I did try for a little bit. We had a recording of a game we played at Dover. It was the one when we scored right at the end to win it. And it had no commentary on it, just audio. And it was quite a nice sort of regular burble. And so I tried a couple of games of just that in the background. And I don't think that was great. I then actually set up lots of hotkeys so that if certain things happened, like Wrexham scored, I had the sound of a Wrexham goal. I had the sound of whatever, you know. But commentating, making notes and doing that was beyond me. I tried that once, couldn't do it.
It was a bit clunky, wasn't it?
So, that we just carried on doing it like that. But I felt terrible. That's what I was going to say, wasn't I felt terrible because just occasionally you get people saying, why is there no sound? And I think, well, I can't answer that question because, you know, we can't say. And then generally somebody would jump in and say, well, if it's an enclosed press box, there won't be any sound, which is absolutely true. And I just thought, I feel bad, but I'm just going to have to leave that like that now because it looks like the question's been answered. I did feel pretty bad, I got to be honest. That sign on the Wrexham Lager stand, that was a scary thing. We dragged it back inside the ground, didn't we? It was in a big sort of quaver shape, the crisp, not the musical malarkey, in the car park, wasn't it? It could have really hurt somebody on the outside. Yeah. The stand had only just been sponsored, so I can only assume it wasn't affixed very well. And we dragged it in, didn't we, into the ground so it didn't cause any more problems. But it was a big chunk of metal, that was. And then, like Neil said, those heating things with the pitch. Oh, man. Before they brought those in, night games were, I mean, genuine. I can say this genuinely because I tried it. You genuinely could not see a hand in front of your face. It was that dark. And it's just like phone torches to try and find the steps and everything, wasn't it? And to set up. And then when they brought in those lights to improve the pitch, that was wonderful because it just gave the whole ground had this pumpkin spice glow, and we could see everything. Then it was fantastic. So we were delighted with that.
It was just. It was so unique, and we'll probably never be able to do it again. And it was great on the final game against Torquay, wasn't it? We had a bit of a spread, didn't we? We had loads of food and stuff.
There's a shock.
Yeah, shock. And it was a really nice way to end that period of commentating because it was so unique and. I loved every minute of it.
Although you brought back a memory there, though, Chay, because that Torquay game as well. I remember I had a number of fears about things that could go wrong, but my main one was buffering. What the hell do you do if the game just drops off or the game starts buffering? And we never had too much problem with that, thankfully.
Yeah,
but
the
then that
game was bad.
Game, it buffered like
games where it dropped out completely. That's where we had problems where it dropped out completely a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yes, but it didn't tend to last too long, did it? Although we wouldn't know that, would we? And you have to sort of. Well, actually, you're right, Neil. I remember a couple of times just thinking, okay, this has gone on for like 30 seconds. That could be all we see, and I just had to hit the mute buttons and say, right, better. It's best that it seems that our commentary's gone off than us continue to bluff when there could be a goal. People could be looking on their phone. It says Wrexham scores, and we're just talking generally about how the game's gone so far. So yeah, if it went over 30, you'd hit the mute, but it tended to come back quickly. But that Torquay game was awful, and it just kept buffering all the way through, and it was you're sort of thinking, God, let's hope nothing happened. Somebody be about to shoot. Well, I remember Waters should have got a penalty.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, as he went in for the ball in the box, you're thinking, ooh, that's a 50-50. It was like the McFadden one. You think, if he gets there first, he'll probably win a penalty. And then it just froze. And then came back about 5 seconds later with Waters on the floor shouting for a penalty. And it's like, okay, we can say he's shouting for a penalty. We can't really make any comment on it because we didn't see it. So it was a weird experience. All that sort of thing was crazy. The other thing I feared was just complete loss of signal at our end, which never happened, to be fair. But yeah, it was an experience, wasn't it? Flying by the seat of your pants. But it was great fun, and for us to be successful like that. The number of times we were like screaming in an empty stadium.
Yeah.
And it's echoing around. We're doing the whole Sam Dolby, I love you, football, all that stuff.
Yeah.
In an empty stadium, echoing about. It was like, I agree totally, Jay. It was weird, and there were challenges, but ultimately, so glad we did it. It was insane.
Yeah, and you've got to remember, the most Americans came on board listening to us.
Yeah.
In the empty stadium at Racecourse, doing commentary.
Yeah. I do feel like I feel slightly like I cheated people, but we didn't. We did what we had to do. The alternative was no commentary. Oh, the other thing that happened sometimes was, the streaming guys who got now 24/7, they are outstanding. But there were some games done before they came in, and home games were brilliant. Away games could be a bit scratchy sometimes. I think, to be fair, it was often because some clubs didn't cooperate much. That Dover match, for example, was pretty much filmed from pitch level because they wouldn't let them go up in the gantry. Well, why did I say pretty much? It was. There was a handrail across the picture, and we did have to commentate on that, and we couldn't see.
There was a guy that walked past in a cowboy hat, wasn't there?
Yes. Exactly.
That's up there, one of my favourite moments. Just and there's just a guy walking past. You could barely see the action. Just a guy walking past with a trench coat and a cowboy hat, and it's like, oh, welcome to National League.
But that was that. Because of the angle, and it was a misty sort of Saturday game in the dark, and you just couldn't see. You couldn't see much in the middle of the pitch. The far side of the pitch was almost impossible, and we did have a couple of games like that, and I'm quite proud. I think we dealt with it quite well, really. When Davis scored that goal, though, even at the time, and even looking at the footage, it's hard to work out exactly what happened.
Yeah,
believe me, commentating on it. Just as a goal, in the distance, you can see people celebrating in the mist.
Yeah, and that's, it did have its challenges, but
It
all in all,
it was all for the love of Wrexham Football Club, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All for the dedication and for the fans to be able to listen to the games live.
But it was also a privilege, to watch away games, because it didn't happen watching away games on the TV. Well, it did in the lockdown season, but not everyone had access to it for a long time. And we were privileged enough to watch every single home and away game for those 2 seasons. And to do it in your home stadium, I don't think there's probably anyone in the world that has done that. And we've done that with this magical takeover and everything that's happened with the documentary. To have our own little unique part in that, Neil, it's nice, isn't it?
All we could have done with like a sofa to sit on to watch it, and a nice warm fire there would have been ideal, and a few hot drinks and whatever. But no, it wasn't like that at all, was it, guys? It was just as we sit there during our home games now, it was out in the cold, in the elements. But guys, we had a great time. We enjoyed it. We loved turning up an empty football ground 3/4 of an hour before kickoff and doing the commentary.
And I think as well, it was really a good thing for the development of the Ask Wrexham community, the massive international support and domestic support who really enjoyed that sort of thing, because we were able to have the continuity of the same people commentating home and away. And I think that must have helped a lot. And then just to make it clear as well, the reason we could see a stream and other people couldn't was that whole dispute with the National League, wasn't it? The National League, and I really can't understand this, we're cutting off their nose to spite their face. We said we wanted to stream. They said no. We said we'll give all the money to all the other clubs and keep none of it. They still said no. It was bizarre. But you were still allowed to privately stream as long as you were willing to pay for the camera crew, and the home team were willing to allow the camera crew to set up. And there's only one club that didn't allow the camera crew to set up. And although sometimes they were put in disadvantageous positions, the fact is that, we were legally allowed to do that, but privately. So say the owners could see it, or somebody who was on the board might be able to have a look at it, and it was purely for that. And then we were just given the opportunity to watch that footage. So that's why we could see it and other people couldn't. National League were not allowing that streaming at all, but privately there was nothing at all wrong about streaming it privately. It's perfectly legit. Yeah. But when they showed us on the video, I'm sorry, I must say, welcome to Wrexham, when they heard that we did that, they were thrilled. They were, wow, that's a story, that's crazy. And that's why they showed bits of us in an empty stadium, didn't they, in the second season, commentating. Or me opening the gates. That wasn't some home game where I arrived first. That was an away game.
Yeah,
but there was 3 of us.
If it was a home game, you were arriving first. You'd have to been to be opening the gates. You'd have to been there like 7 in the morning or something silly like that, probably. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put it past Mark, to be fair, but Well, anyway, we've got one more little news thing, and I think we'll just roll straight into it. Earlier this week, Wrexham AFC announced that we're going to be having a temporary stand in the Kop. Guys, again, this is more great news. Is it 2,300?
Something like that?
Yeah, something along those lines. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. Neil, it'd be great to see even just a temporary stand in the Kop for now.
Just to see a 4-sided stand, which is going to be temporary, would be fantastic. It allows another 2,000 plus Wrexham fans to watch the games, which everybody's complaining they can't get tickets for. And I believe they say they're going to have it up before Christmas for the Newport game.
Yeah.
So, which will be great. So there'll be another release of tickets for the Newport game and the Barrow game, I would have thought. So, but it'll be solely for the home fans, which is fantastic news for the community. And they're also saying, the cost upon the stand is not going to be, the revenue going to be gained from the tickets is not going to cover the cost of the stand. So fair play, just to get extra fans into the ground. They're doing it maybe at a loss, which is, how Wrexham is run at the moment and what they think of the fans we've got at Wrexham.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing for me. This is going to make a loss, but it doesn't matter because it lets more people get into the ground, and that's that's the ethos of a community club, isn't it? They want people to get it. I mean, obviously, there's other benefits to getting more people in, but the bottom line is, yeah, fantastic that we can expand our capacity like that. We can get more people watch, and we can intimidate the goalkeepers at the other end instead of just at the Stoke Cold Brew coffee end.
That means we lose the pig. That's the only downside.
What? There'll be
the big pig, that's going to disappear because the stand's
it's gone.
It's already gone.
Yeah.
I thought you had your way with it, Neil, and destroyed it.
What? I mean, I gotta say, after your opening comment on this show, to go down that road again was pretty bold.
He just said what he said.
I'm not repeating that. Blaming hell.
My solicitor will be on to you. My solicitor will be on to you guys.
Whitchurch Photography's. But oh my God, solicitors are going to be in contact with me. Yeah, I do apologise.
Yeah, Sander.
But yeah.
But at the end of the game on Sunday, I was sort of musing on if that pig's Wrexham shirt is integral. Does that mean that it's just going to be destroyed afterwards? Because who is going to buy a pig in a Wrexham shirt? And I was thinking, could I have it and put it up in the garden? Mrs. Griffiths would have been delighted. I know. I would have put thousands on the house. But yeah, I realised when I looked closely at some pictures that shirt obviously was a bit of plastic that they can put over the top of it and gut it. So it's gone now. It's gone to, I don't know, who knows? That's a brilliant Netflix documentary, seeing as we're not in a Netflix documentary, although most people seem to think we are. Just sort of like, where did Percy go? What happened to Percy Pig? And we could do lots of earnest interviews of people who claim to be inflatable pig experts talking about what often happens to pigs when they disappear. And I know what happens when your pigs disappear, Neil. It's Burger King, isn't it? But we could have this big sort of investigation trying to find where he is, and it turns out he's outside a car dealership in Rotherham. That's what I'm aiming for.
So going back to the stand again, guys, as well.
Oh yeah,
they're also going to accommodate, I believe, an extra 20 disabled fans as well.
Brilliant.
Which is great news again,
Brilliant. Pound for pound, the disability facilities that we provide at our club is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's be fair. And credit to Rob and Ryan, and credit to the WST before them as well, who've really been putting this in place for a while. And it truly shows that we are a community club and we care about all of our fans, no matter what. And I think that's brilliant. And
credit to Kerry Evans, who has gone from an amazingly overworked volunteer to a ludicrously overworked employee, because the supersizing obviously brings lots more elements in that she has to deal with, and she's constantly snowed under. But goodness me, what a service she has provided for supporters of Wrexham Football Club and supporters of other clubs. Absolute legend. Yeah,
she deserves the freedom of the city as well. Definitely. Yeah. I seriously think that. I really do. Does anyone else have anything else to add?
That Squid Game reality show's good, isn't it? That went down well. Neil, you'll get it in 2047. Don't worry, mate.
Yeah,
it'll get to shop at Whitchurch by then.
Yeah, over the top of the head, mate. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the end of the show, guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Been a really fun show. I've really enjoyed finally talking about the away games that we've been doing the last few seasons, because it really has been hush hush. I'm sure only our really close family members would have known about it, and it's really good to announce it, and really good again to do Dragonheart with you two. This has been Neil Williams, Mark Griffiths, and Chay Long. This is Dragonheart.
I'm Neil Roberts, and this is Dragonheart.